If you're a well-paid, busy professional with £200,000 cash to invest in property, you're in a brilliant position to build generational wealth through property. But what should you actually do with that money? In this video, I'll talk you through exactly what I would do with £200,000 cash as a property investor that doesn't want property to take over their whole life. We'll look at a hands-off, low-maintenance strategy that builds wealth through the long term, as well as diversifying your portfolio to spread your risk. If you're new here, welcome. My name's James. I'm the co-founder and managing director of a property investment consultancy called Freight Property Partners, but this channel is all about your education. The first thing we need to do is work out how many properties we're going to purchase and the exact strategy we're going to go down. For me, as a hands-off property investor, that is going to be good quality buy-to-lets in areas primed for long-term growth. We want to target properties that are low maintenance, so we're looking at properties that are either new build or properties that have recently been refurbed to a high level. Once we've narrowed down the locations and exactly what we're going to purchase, we then negotiate to make sure we're building equity in at the point of purchase. So we need to make sure we're buying at a discount, with a genuine discount, so it's genuinely below market value. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to choose two locations, which is Greater Manchester in the northwest, as well as the East Midlands. The main reason for looking at Manchester is it's the biggest city in the northwest, and the northwest region has the best projected growth over the next 5 years by Savills. The fundamentals in Manchester are second to none, and although the city centre isn't quite as affordable as it was 5-10 years ago, there's still some brilliant opportunities to buy quality properties in and around Greater Manchester, where we'll see very strong capital appreciation. Once we've found the property in Manchester, we're going to then target areas in and around the East Midlands because we know the area really well and we're not using a third party to help us find these properties. Remember, every time we're looking at a property or looking to purchase a property, we need to make sure the locations that we're sourcing properties in have strong fundamentals, and both these locations have exactly that. So let's look at how we would invest this 200k cash. So let's say we've done our research, we've narrowed down the properties that we want to look at, we've then negotiated a discount from the developer, and let's look at the numbers and see how that works. So as you can see, we've got a property on the market for just under £280,000. We've negotiated a 12% discount on that property to secure it at £246,000. So we're saving somewhere in the region of £33,000 at the point of purchase, so we get immediate equity and give us the opportunity to refinance in the future and release equity to continue to scale the portfolio. But you can see that here, if we're doing it ourselves, we've got a deposit, we've also got things like solicitor fees, legal disbursements, your broker costs, as well as your stamp duty. So in total, to buy a property worth £246,000, you need around £79,000 cash. So it's not a cheap property, but property isn't cheap in the current market, and we don't want to just go for cheap properties. If you buy cheap properties, you're in at the low end of the market, demand isn't particularly high for those properties, and the growth of those properties isn't particularly strong in those locations either. So there's a balance. You don't want to buy the most expensive properties, you don't want to buy the cheapest, but you do want to buy good quality properties in areas primed for long-term growth, essentially. You can then look at the cash flows. So again, this is just the assumption that we're getting a 4.5% rate on our mortgage. It might be different depending on when you're looking at this video or watching this video. There is obviously market changes that do happen, but we've got 4.5% in this current bit. We've then got an estate charge. Because it's a new property, although it's a freehold house, you will have usually an estate charge associated with that, which is just for the maintenance of the green space, the communal areas, if there's a park on site of the new estate, but it's minimal money. This one's £13 a month just for your viewing there. So again, very small amount there. We're then going to have the property managed by a rental management company, so a letting agent essentially. They will charge in and around 10% plus VAT, so somewhere in the region of 12%. In this current property, it's £150 a month. Your rent is £12.50 a month, so that means every single month you'll be making just under £400 a month profit after you've paid for your management, your mortgage and everything else in between, which is yearly about £4,750. So it's not life-changing money when you're starting out, but we have secured £34,000 of immediate equity at the point of purchase, which is super important when we're looking long term. Your yield is in and around 6% for this property, which is a reasonable yield in the current market. It's not life-changing, but again, we're looking for good quality yields for good quality properties, and it's not going to be the highest yields. If you targeted a property, let's say that was going for a 9% yield, the chances are the reason that yield is strong is because of the lack of appreciation that local area has had, which means that the likelihood is you're still not going to get much growth moving forward because of the lack of the strong fundamentals of that area. And then your rental ROI, so your rental profit, is 6% as well, which is really strong in the current market. So on a property that you're buying for just under £250,000, you've earned yourself £33,000 of immediate equity. You're also earning yourself £4,750 profit every single year from that property, and give yourself the opportunity to scale your portfolio. So that would be property one that we would look at. What we can then do is look what happens if we move forward over the next few years. First and foremost, if we look at the numbers here, so you've got the property value, which is just under £280,000. You've got the price that we've paid, which is £246,000. That's a saving of £33,995, so just under 34 grand. And the cash required to purchase this property is £79,000. So we've got the numbers there. And if we're looking at capital appreciation, which is obviously something we want and we will look at moving forward, we don't want to go too punchy with our projections. Traditionally, we've looked at things and you can see growth of about 6% a year on average if you look over a kind of 30-40 year period. But even if we're looking at 4% growth a year, because we're targeting Manchester, which is an area of long-term growth, we can see our equity growing over time and our return on cash, just the return on investment without even the rental profit, we'll get a full return on that in just 4 years' time, because you're looking at the discount you get on the property, which is that £34,000, plus the growth on the property, which is the growth of the market value, not on the price that you paid. So when you get the opportunity to refinance in a few years, you can release a lot of your equity to scale the portfolio further. So that means it's really important that we're not just buying properties because we're told we're getting a discount. We need to make sure that the market value is the value that they're asking for. So they're asking for £280,000 in this scenario. We need to make sure that we're going on Rightmove and looking at Rightmove sold prices, using tools like property data and things like that to make sure that the property is priced correctly in the current market. There's not just new properties, but there's also resale properties at similar values than what this is, and then we're negotiating the discount to make sure that the equity we're getting on the property is genuine equity, genuine discount, rather than just a marketed discount that sometimes you can get, unfortunately. For property 2, we're going to look in Nottingham, which again, we're going to look at a similar type of property, either a recently renewed or redeveloped house, or we're looking at a house direct from a national house builder or from a house builder in the local area, where we're confident on the quality of the build and we can secure a 10-year build warranty, so we're not going to have to pay for things if there's structural damage or structural issues within the property. This isn't something that happens really often where there is structural damage or there is problems with the properties, but it gives us that peace of mind. And if you're out buying an older property, there can be problems with the roof, there could be issues with the boiler and other things like that. So having warranty gives you that extra protection as a busy professional that doesn't want to make property their second job. It gives us the opportunity to build our wealth through property without it taking up hours and hours of our time every single week. So if we look at property 2, this one is a slightly more affordable property. The market price of that is £250,000. We've secured a discount on that again. Maybe it's not quite as big. Let's say for this example, it's a 10% discount. So we're buying a property for £225,000. So again, we're making immediate equity of about 25 grand, which is decent equity at the point of purchase to make our life easier as we go forward. The total amount of cash required for this one is slightly less because the property is slightly cheaper. You're looking at £72,390. So we're eating into a chunk of that cash on those 2 properties alone, but that's because those properties are complete. We need to pay for stamp duty and legal costs and things like that all at once because the properties are complete. So when you get your mortgage offer and everything like that, it might take 2 or 3 months. You then have to complete on the property and pay for all of the fees within the next few months to make sure that you've got the property and you've done everything right. This one again, you're looking at a similar cash flow, so it's a slightly lower rental income. From this side, it's £1,150, which is again in and around a 6%, 6.1% gross yield on the property. You can see that here. You've also got a similar return on your investment, so similar rental profit, rental ROI of about 6%, which means that this yearly cash flow after you've paid for your mortgage and management and things like that would be £4,406 a year. So a decent return. It's not life changing, but across the 2 properties you're making between 8.5 and 9 grand a year profit, and again it's the immediate equity we've got on these properties because we've been able to secure a discount across the 2 properties. You're looking circa kind of £50,000-55,000. With these 2 properties, because they are complete already, we've eaten into a chunk of our cash, which essentially means that we'll have slightly less cash to buy the last property. And if we're looking at that and the values and stamp duty and things like that, we could go for something that was complete, that was quite a lot more affordable. The likelihood is we're going to be targeting the bottom end of the market now, and again, because we don't want to do that, we want to make sure we're buying good quality properties in areas primed for growth. We're not going to diversify again in terms of we're not going to buy in another location. We want to start to see the economies of scale across some locations. So what we'll do with a third property is buy in one of the 2 locations we've already purchased in. So in these examples, again, let's say it's Manchester and Nottingham for argument's sake. You may be looking at Manchester and Liverpool, or Liverpool and Yorkshire, so at Leeds, somewhere like that. It doesn't matter too much, but once you've bought 2 properties, you don't want to have to go into a new location every single time you buy a new property, because then you'll need to find a new letting agent and so on and so forth, and then it becomes more of a job for you moving forward. So what we're going to do with the third property is we're going to target one of those 2 locations and get a good quality property in one of those 2 locations again. What we're going to do for this time is we're actually going to purchase a property off plan. Because we're buying a property off plan, we can target good quality developers that we know deliver on time and to specification, but we don't need all of the cash right now. What that means is we can either look at a developer that offers us the opportunity to secure a property with a 10% deposit, or even if we're going to put a 20% deposit down, we can look at a good quality developer that we know will deliver and protect our money, so our money isn't ultimately at risk. If you're not sure what off-plan is, or you've never done off-plan investments in the past, I have actually previously recorded a video about off-plan and whether it's still worth it in the current market. Spoiler alert, it probably is, especially if you're looking at certain specific areas or certain property types, or you want to get into really good quality properties, or want to target the best quality property or the best property in that development. Off-plan is definitely something that you can still consider in certain locations, but if you want more information on that, I will put a link to that video in the description. So what we're going to do in this scenario is we're going to purchase a property worth in and around £190,000 to £200,000, which will probably get us a 1-bed apartment in certain locations, and we will purchase this off-plan. So we're going to secure with a pre-launch pricing, which means that we can secure at a discount. Because we're buying off plan, the developer will incentivize us to do that because it makes their funder happy that they've secured a number of sales prior to completion. So we'll get in at an early discount. Again, we need to make sure that we're making sure it's a genuine discount, so we're looking at genuine comparable evidence. But once we've found the right site and found the right development, we will hand pick a good quality property that has a really good aspect, so it will attract tenants and make it easy for us to find tenants, but also make it easy for us to resell in the future if we're looking to do that. Because we're only getting something off plan, let's say we're maximum putting down a 20% deposit, so that's £40,000 on a property worth in and around 190k. So we'll put in around 40k. We will then wait 12 to 18 months, maybe even 2 years until completion. We'll benefit from the capital growth during that period, which could be 3, 4, 5% a year because we're targeting areas primed for long-term capital growth. We won't see a rental return on that cash immediately because the property isn't complete and we're not getting a tenant in there, but we are benefiting from both the pre-launch discount and the appreciation of the asset during that time. And it means that we don't need all of the money immediately. You obviously already have the difference, which is the 10 grand to make the 200k of cash you've already got, but also we then have 18 months, maybe even 2 years, could be 12 months, depending on the development or the site that you go for, to save an additional £15,000 of cash that will pay for things like stamp duty, legal costs and broker fees, which are only due upon the point of completion. So initially you'd only need the initial deposit, pay for a few grand or a grand and a bit of legal costs to exchange on contracts, and then the rest would be due upon completion. But that is exactly what we would do if we had £200,000 cash right now and we wanted to start building the property portfolio in a way that doesn't give us a second job. These properties are good quality properties. They come with 10-year build warranties. They are going to attract high quality professional or family tenants that will give you a decent rental income, a decent rental profit moving forward, but you're also making immediate equity at the point of purchase on every single one of those purchases. The way we get those discounts are different depending on the property that you purchase. Obviously, if you're buying off plan, you're obviously offered a discount already because you're being able to purchase prior to the completion of the site. If they're completed, like the houses that we've secured, there's a few different opportunities that we can get discounts throughout the year that we will look at in another video, but that is exactly what I would do if I had 200k cash and I wanted to invest in property and build my wealth in the long term without it being a new job or creating a whole new job for me to do for the management and things like that. After you purchase those properties, you'll wait a couple of years, you'll benefit from a rental income, but then you'll look at the opportunity to scale the portfolio through refinancing. For our personal portfolio, we use a portfolio forecasting tool to show us what could happen over the next few years if the projections of growth are correct. It's not super complex tools and there's a few assumptions it makes, like you're purchasing a property at the same value each time. So I've input a property price of 223k for every time we purchase a property, and it shows with 31% growth over the next 5 years, even if we bought at market price, would have the opportunity to refinance these properties, release equity and purchase several more properties. This means that because we're buying at a discount, it becomes even easier, and even if we don't get the growth that Savills are projecting at that 31%, we can still do this because we've been able to purchase at a discount. This isn't me personally saying that this is what your portfolio would look like or this is the position you're going to be in 5 years time, but it gives us an insight of what could happen if projections are right and if we bought in areas primed for that long-term growth. And remember, this is just 5 years time. If we do this, scale again and wait for the long term, we'll build our portfolio into a way that can really build generational wealth and can plan for our pensions in the long term. So now we've run through this in more detail, I hope you found it useful and I hope you have an understanding of what you might do if you have that pot of cash to invest in property. Remember, we're not buying property to give ourselves a new job. We're building our wealth steadily in the long term by buying good quality assets in areas primed for long-term growth. If you have any more questions or you'd like us to look actually how we find these properties specifically, then drop a comment and we'll see what we can do in some future videos. But thanks again for watching and I'll see you soon.